sports fans and fellow foodies? I'm Julie, and welcome to my kitchen, where each week I talk sports while whipping up culinary creations. This week, we are going into the Wayback Machine. Today is Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all the strong men out there, whether you are a bio dad, a stepdad, if you are an adoptive dad, a foster dad. If you're just a strong man who's a good role model for somebody, that counts too. We're celebrating all of you today. My dad, Dan Swieca, he was my hero. He was in my life for 18 years before he succumbed to colon cancer, but he instilled in me so many of his favorite beliefs and hobbies and sayings. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think of something he put into my life. And whether it was a love of gardening or reading, we went to the library together all the time. Things like that, but two of our biggest shared interests were sports and cooking. My family went to sporting events growing up. We went to the Cubs and the White Sox. We went to Platteville to watch the Bears practice. We went to Northwestern football games. My parents, God bless them, took me to Jim McMahon's restaurant for my 16th birthday. I still have the shorts from there. See the little Jimmy Mac logo there? These don't fit me anymore, needless to say. But that's how our family was growing up. If we were interested in sports, my parents shared it with us. And boy, was my dad a huge influence on my becoming a Chicago Bears fan. We watched the Bears games together. My family went to Platteville for training camp together. We had a Super Bowl party for our family where we stapled streamers to the trees outside and they blew in the wind. I was such a geek, I wrote Mike Ditka a letter about our family putting the streamers on the trees and blah, blah, blah. Mike Ditka wrote me back, handwritten thank you note from Mike Ditka saying, thank you for being such a great Bears fan, God bless your family, blah, 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 Mike Ditka. So that was my experience growing up with sports. I helped my dad run the football pool for his brokerage firm. I did a newsletter called the Goal Line Gazette for the stockbrokers to read about what was going on. This was before the internet, so I was literally culling things from different sports sections and putting them into an actual Xerox newsletter that my dad passed out at his stockbroker office every Monday morning. Anyway, I'm talking about my dad, and I'm talking about how we loved sports and cooking. Is it any wonder I wound up where I'm at right now? My dad had this love of trying all sorts of crazy things in the kitchen. Sometimes they were good, sometimes they weren't. My dad loves Spam. He loved fried bologna. I'm not subjecting you to any of those today. But my mom had bought me a Betty Crocker for Kids cookbook. And so I would pick out recipes in there and we would make them. And one of the ones my dad and I made together was root beer float cookies. So I'm kind of dipping back into that today. I'm going to give you a little abbreviated version here, just so I can talk a little more about my dad and so I can show you the finished cookies. But what I did is I started with 1 cup of butter, which is 2 sticks. I added to that 1 cup of brown sugar and 1 cup of regular granulated sugar. Put them all in here together, nice and easy. You cream your butter and your sugar together in your mixer. After that, you're going to add 2 eggs, and then you're going to add your extracts. All right, here's where it gets good. You add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and then you add 2 teaspoons of root beer extract. My dad and I were going to stores trying to find this. I think we actually finally found it at Jewel, or as we Chicagoans like to say, the Jewels. It is easy to find right now, to the point where I find some of my extracts at Menards. Go figure, they have a great section of extracts in probably 50 different flavors. So this one is one I found at Menards. It's Watkins, but you can probably find McCormick's brand at the grocery store as well. I know Walmart sells them, but this is the key. We had to find this when I was making cookies with Dad way back when, and you'll be able to find it now because you need those 2 teaspoons to go in the cookie dough. As for your dry ingredients, once you've blended all that, you're gonna have 4 cups of all-purpose flour. To that, you're gonna add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and you're gonna add 1 teaspoon baking soda, not baking powder, baking soda. I kind of mix it in like this just so it's all kind of incorporated together and not sectioned. And then you're gonna add that to your creamed mixture. Once that's all incorporated, you can scoop your cookies right away. I chilled it for a little bit. You don't have to. If you want your cookies to be flatter, room temperature cookie dough is fine. If you want them to be a little bit more mounded, you can chill it a little bit. Here's the thing with mine. I keep my flour in the freezer. It keeps bugs from getting into it. I know it sounds weird, but there's little weevils that grow in flour. If I leave my flour out, I'm afraid of bugs. So I keep it in the freezer. My flour is cold, so my cookie dough is cold. You don't have to do it that way, but it's just something that works for me. I did still throw it in the fridge for a few minutes, probably about 5 minutes. You can do it for half an hour, however long you want, but you just want it to be a little bit firmer. So if you see what I've got here, it's pinchable and it's scoopable. So I have my cookie sheet here, and what I did is I'm just using a purple scoop, and I'm scooping little balls for the cookie dough here and placing them. Usually I use parchment paper. Today I tried it on a Silpat sheet, which you can use for pretty much all the same uses you use parchment paper for. I did some where I just literally packed it into the scoop and then ejected it and put it on the sheet pan. But I also did some where after I scooped it, packed it in, popped it out, and then I flattened it a little bit, just a smidge, and you'll see how that turns out when I show you the finished cookies. Your oven needs to be at 375 degrees. You want your oven preheated before you put anything in it, and your cookies are gonna go in for 10 to 12 minutes. When they come out, I have cookies that look just like this. These are the ones I pressed down. These are the ones I did not. Not a big difference, but you can see they did not spread, which I attribute partly to using the cookie dough that was a little more chilled, a little cooler. But I have these beautiful cookies, nice golden bottoms, again, 10 to 12 minutes, but check them because everyone's oven varies. Now, what we did when Dad and I were making them, I think the root beer extract we used was probably colored brown. The one I'm using here is clear. I think Dad and I had a brown tint to our icing because of the food coloring being tinted, or the extract being tinted rather. But if you want it to be brown, if you want it to look like root beer, great. They're root beer float cookies, so you might want to just go with white because then it looks like the ice cream or the whipped cream on top of your float. So what I did for my icing here, same thing in my KitchenAid mixer. I took 1 cup of powdered sugar. I took 2 tablespoons of softened butter. Soften it by leaving it out. Don't try and microwave it, you're gonna melt it. And here I have 2 teaspoons of our root beer extract. What I did with this, I started mixing it. You will get something that's actually like a frosting. So if you want to put frosting on the cookies, it's gonna be more like this. I'm smushing it on here with my offset spatula. You can use a knife. But if you just want a cookie with some like stiff frosting, you can go that route. What I like to do is I use some hot water or warm water, added it a little bit at a time to get a more glaze-like consistency. So you can see mine is a little bit more runny. You can thin it out even more if you want, totally up to you. If you thin it out more, you're gonna be able to drizzle it. The way I have it, I'm just gonna spoon it over the top and it's gonna kind of dribble down the sides. You give it a few minutes there and it will harden up just a little bit. Not crunchy, but it'll harden just a smidge. And I can't even tell you how good it smells when they're baking and when you're icing them. You smell that root beer. It almost has like a cream soda kind of vibe to it, but it is root beer extract. So then I would just set them down and let them chill for a while, literally, just let them cool here and let them hang out. I don't know if Dad and I actually let the cookies sit for very long because our family loves dessert. We're the type who dive right in. Doesn't matter if the cookies are still a little warm and chewy. That's kind of how we like it, right? And if you look at these, when I break into them, they are going to be nice and soft and chewy. That little slight crisp on the outside and that chewy part on the inside. My dad and I made all sorts of crazy stuff in the kitchen. These were one of our favorites that we tried, just pulling it out of my kids' cookbook. I know somewhere he is looking down on me right now and smiling and wishing he had one of these cookies to munch on too. Thanks for joining me here in my kitchen. Feel free to share some of your sports nostalgia stories with me in the comments. That's what we're here for, sharing our love of sports and our love of food and reminiscing a little bit about how sports shaped us growing up. I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me here in my kitchen.